There's a curious comment we often hear, it is, why does God allow bad things to happen to good people? Now this question is immediately wrong in so many ways. First of all, of course, Christ tells us no man is good, none of us is good. Secondly, the things that we assume are bad, the struggles, the difficulties of life, are very often the way that we are being saved, the way that God is working in our lives, breaking our pride, bringing us to our senses. Our struggles are very often the moments when we experience grace and the blessing of God. And goodness, of course, does not earn any reward. In human beings, generally in our society, we often assume that there will be a reward for our efforts, for our work. We will be recognized, or we'll be paid. There'll be some kind of recognition for what we've done. But this kind of thinking is alien to the spiritual life. We cannot do anything with the anticipation of a reward from God, because nothing we do can earn us reward from God. Jesus says to us that we are already deeply in debt to God. So deeply in debt because of the great generosity of God in all that He does, in every way, our very existence, our life, the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, our material wealth to whatever extent we have it, and of course for His mercy, His forgiveness, and for Christ Himself coming to us in the incarnation. We are so indebted to God already that nothing we do can possibly earn us a reward before God. So obedience to the commands of God is not, we do not fulfill the commands of God in order to receive a reward, but because it is the bare minimum of the Christian life. Obedience to the commands of God is the bare minimum of the spiritual life, because the commands of God are not arbitrary, but are given in God's love that we may be changed. Fulfilling the commands of God changes us. It changes our heart. It transforms us. And when we recognize that we are utterly indebted to God, that we can do nothing to earn reward, because as Christ says, even our greatest acts are like dirty rags before God. Every act that we perform is mixed with pride, with selfishness, with sinful motives. Our hearts are never entirely pure, though we strive to make them pure, though we seek the work of the Holy Spirit within us. Our hearts are a mixture of motives, and so our acts, our thoughts are always this mixture. So even outwardly, those acts that may appear to the world or even to ourselves as good are like dirty rags before God. For God sees all and sees into the very depths of our hearts. And when we recognize this, when we recognize our indebtedness to God, that realization may be a means of overcoming our pride. Only then can we begin to experience God's grace. And the mystery here is that only when we begin to overcome our pride can we truly experience God's grace. But it is only God's grace that enables us to be obedient, that enables us to put aside our pride. God calls us to be co-workers with His grace. He doesn't just act on us like an object. He has given us free will. He calls us to participate in what He is doing within us. He calls us to give our will to His will, to lay down everything that is an obstacle. And the greatest obstacle, of course, is us. This terrible monster that exists in our heart, this monster of self-will, of pride. And disobedience is there every time we seek worldly comfort and worldly securities before the promises of God. When we are so selfish that we follow our own will, trusting in ourselves or trusting in the things of this world to give us security. All these securities are an illusion. They are false, and they can be stripped away so quickly through ill health, through war, through natural disaster. The things of this world can be taken from us so quickly, and we must in those moments find our trust in God, our faith in God, our security in God's love for us. Only when we have put to death the old man of pride and self-will can we begin to live a life obedient to God.